Is it too nerdy to say that I get goosebumps every time De Niro's intro plays? I mean, my God, this actually seems like a legit Xbox podcast. Hey, folks, welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. And we have one hell of a show for you today. You're going to get to see some Titanfall 2 footage. I just can't stop playing it and, more importantly, recording it. And, of course, on the back end, my other favorite game of 2020 that has become my favorite game of 2021, that is Dirt 5. And if you don't like that, well, I mean, listen, what can I tell you? Tune in somewhere else. But listen, folks, I want to thank everybody for being here. We have an amazing show ready for you. The panel is almost in full strength. Boxer Bear, or aka Archimedes, he is still down from the count. He is still fighting COVID. He's better, but he's not ready to run a marathon. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get him back next week or the week after. But he is obviously, his chair is never going to be filled unless his ass is sitting in that seat, because we love Boxer Bear. But let's introduce our special guest. Now, yesterday I had the extreme pleasure of sitting down with N64 Josh and for his new Xbox show, which of course I have to pimp because I think it's a great program and I want to get him to talk about it. Josh, welcome back, man. This is your second time with us, and yesterday we hung out and it was an amazing episode.
It was such a great time. Thank you so much for hanging out with me yesterday and chatting. And it was really just a fun show about kind of getting to know you a little bit, getting some of your history, and then of course we jumped into are we good?
I think there's technical difficulties. I think Boom may have lagged out. Continue, okay. Josh. Don't worry. I'll run the show for the time being.
Gotcha. Yeah, but so Boom and I jumped into a number of different topics. The FPS boost and what that means for, kind of making old games feel new again, and also just learning about his history a little bit. So it was a really good time.
Yeah, it was great. I had a momentarily lapse here. I don't know what's going on with my interwebs. I had reset it. Joe, if I happen to go down, because for some reason they must be doing work on the wires here, you obviously will run the show till I get back, but we're going to keep going to where we're going. I definitely appreciate it. Joe, speaking of which, we have to talk about you for a second. Yeah. Because not only are you an important part of this show, but you did something yesterday that we have to talk about. Now, granted, this is an Xbox show, but when something big like this, regardless of platform, you got to talk about it. You had a chance to sit down with Greg, a baker's dozen Miller from Kind of Funny, and you got him for an hour. You and Kyle got to interview him. Talk about that for a second, and then obviously, what else has been going on with you?
A surreal moment. It's really strange having to have the person that inspired you to start doing that thing in the same room with you. That's how it really was. And I'm lucky that I had my stuff together for the most part throughout that episode. And it's something really special because that show, our show, is really it came with when PS I Love You, went off the air originally.
Yes.
And that's why our show is a thing. So it's so weird and humbling and just all different types of feelings. But I think the highlight of it is seeing so many people root for us, so many people congratulate us, so many people already downloading it, having a good time with it. And surreal. It still is really surreal. That said, though, other big news. Look what I got. I got over there. Mass Effect helmet came in yesterday.
Good for you. You know what? Good on you, because I got an email from them. Yeah, it's funny. I got an email. I was distraught because I didn't get into the first wave, and they didn't tell me that. They said wave 2 coming in June.
No.
Yeah, so I reached out to their PR department, and I paid for it like everybody else. It was like, oh well, we didn't expect so many sales, and you got into wave 2. We're very sorry. You're sorry, but that's not taking care of.
They didn't tell you it'd be in waves.
No, they actually didn't. When I pre-ordered it, said it's coming when it's coming, and you know what? Here we are. But it's okay, folks. I'm still getting my Mass Effect helmet, and
when that day happens, we're wearing it on the show.
Oh, 100%. Like if I'd been wearing it today, there's no doubt about it. But, obviously I can't. But let's continue with the introductions. 3-Bit, welcome back to the show, brother. You've been busy as heck, no doubt about that. But we're glad to have you here. You're going to be talking about some pretty big topics within the Xbox industry. How the heck are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. It's good to see Josh on here. I was playing with him on Outriders a few weeks ago. I think that was pretty fun. But yeah, it's good to be back. I am extremely busy these days, but I will be sharing a lot of work on the next few weeks, so that's going to be really fun. But yeah, these topics are great. Let's get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here, brother. And last and no way least, this is the gentleman that not only powers this show with intelligence, but it powers it with his incredible vocabulary that he brings each and every week. VJ, welcome to the party, brother.
Morning, sir. I'm good, and I hope everyone on the panel and the chat is also doing fine and dandy. And I'll have to echo 3-Bit sentiment that the topics look fantastic today. So I'm really looking forward to getting into them.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for that. Yeah, this was a pretty incredible week for Xbox news. Not such a good news week for PlayStation, and we're going to get into that on Monday's new primetime gaming. And we're actually going to have with us to discuss what's going on the side of PlayStation is going to be Joe, developer of Song of Iron. He's going to be joining us, and we have a lot to get into regarding Sony and what's been going on with the Apple versus Epic. Lots of leaked and secret documents have now been made public, and wow, man, Sony is been painted as the real villain here. But we're not going to get into that. What we are going to get into is one of those leaked documents that came out earlier this week. And with that leaked document, what we wind up getting, right, is some information on what Microsoft might in fact be doing. And what I'm talking about, well, as you know, at the Epic Store did something very drastic to pull sales away from Steam. And what they did is, instead of taking 30% cut, which is the normal standard fare for publishers and developers, they dropped it down to 12%. Well, new documentation suggests that Microsoft will be doing this for the console store. Now, I have to just say this up front so we understand we're on the same page. A spokesperson from Microsoft said this in a statement issued to The Verge. And this is what they had to say. We have no plans to change the revenue share for console games at this time, end quote. But this is where it gets important. Like I'm a big guy of saying when the cat's out of the bag, well, it's out of the bag. And I'm going to say this. If Microsoft, who currently takes 30% from publishers and developers to put their games onto the Xbox Store, or of course through the Windows Store on PC, and they take only 12%, this is going to be one of the most monumental console decisions in the history of gaming. We always talk about how big Bethesda was, that purchase of $7.5 billion, how big Game Pass has been to the industry in itself, more specifically for the Xbox community. But this is on another level. Joe, I have to immediately go to you because as a representative of the PlayStation Nation, we understand that it's a business. It's a business for Nintendo. It's a business for Sony. It's a business for Microsoft. But this particular instance, even though the spokesperson, quote unquote, said not at this time, it almost seems as if the cat was let out of the bag and they didn't want anyone to know. Like this was going to be like a big E3 surprise announcement or a GDC announcement or one of the big shows where there are developers there saying, hey, listen, moving forward, we're only taking 12%. You guys get 18 more percent in your bank account. So I kind of want to just walk down speculation town, which is currently 70 and sunny right now, and there are unicorns and there are rainbows. So it's a perfect scenario.
Yeah.
My question to you is, does this paint Sony into a corner if they do this?
No. I think what you're seeing in that move is more for Microsoft to make developers kind of come to their platform. You know, it was, what was it, last Friday numbers were released that, you know, the PlayStation 4, that platform sold more games than any other platform
Yes, sir.
ever, right? Including the PS2, which was the highest at the time. So Sony's in a really good position marketplace wise. And, you know, a lot of indies go over there because they are the market leader and because their audience goes over there and purchases those games. Not necessarily because it's the best platform, it's just the most people are there. So, you know, what Microsoft is doing is saying, hey, listen, we might have a smaller market share than PlayStation, but we're going to give you a larger cut for being on this store or for picking our platform. So it really is a way to speak to developers of all sizes, but mostly indies, to say, hey, listen, come over here, ID at Xbox, the whole big shebang. You know, we'll
Great
give
point.
you that marketing deal. We'll give you, you know, spotlight, and at the same exact time, we'll also give you a bigger cut, because I think that's what Microsoft's big push, I think, wants to be, is they see the success from indies with Nintendo and on PC and on PlayStation, and I think they want a bigger penetration into that market when it comes to Xbox.
Yeah.
And I think that's what this does as well. So I don't think it's like necessarily like, you know, looking at PlayStation going, see, they're not doing it. It's, hey, they're not doing it. We'll give you more monies. So I think
I absolutely agree with that. I
yeah.
think that when you're trying to, and really, you know, we always talk about Phil Spencer's plan, Joe. Like you and I, we sit here privately in the green room and we talk about things that just we don't talk about live on the air because, you know, sometimes it's relevant, sometimes it's not. But the Phil Spencer plan that started when he got that second promotion where he sits on the right hand of God, meaning of course Satya Nadella, right?
Yeah.
When he got that position, it appears that all of these plans are what saved you know, Xbox and Microsoft to keep this show running, and this was apparently part of the plan. And one of the biggest things for them is, of course, Game Pass. And how do you get incredible amounts of software in there? You tell your developers, especially your indie community, hey, listen, we know it's tough out there. 30% is a lot. We are willing to take only 12%, but you got to put your stuff here. That certainly will get a lot of firsts, maybe not exclusives, because that's not even what they're looking for. They're not looking for exclusives per se. They just want games in their service. And if they can offer an 18% discount as opposed to a Nintendo or a Sony, they are going to get those games and they're going to get them in an abundance.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly it, and I think that's again that I think Microsoft wants a Hades. You know, they want those indies,
absolutely.
man. It's
who
not
doesn't
just
want
about
Hades?
the ascent. Yeah, I mean, true, but
Right.
like, yeah, you know, I think it makes perfect sense for Microsoft. It makes them come off progressive, and that's what you want. You want a company that's forward thinking. You know?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Good stuff as always. Josh, let's get your opinion on this, brother. Obviously, Microsoft is not only has been in the talk of the town in a good way for quite some time. The media has definitely turned a corner with how they talk about and cover Microsoft. And I think that at some point it's hard to deny what they've been up to. But this story, even though, like I said, it got poo-pooed by a nameless representative of Microsoft, which of course we don't, look, I'll say this. It's information that they didn't want out, and it got out because of this, these leaked documents, or they're not really leaked. They're public knowledge. And this is something that they were probably looking to save as a surprise. Where do you fall on Microsoft offering an 18% difference in considered to be a discount to other platforms like Sony's PlayStation or PSN or the Nintendo Online? I mean, do you feel that they're going to see an abundance of, especially the indie community, want to go there first?
You would think that would be the case, right? And Nintendo has definitely shown that that indies can play a significant role in the success of your ecosystem. I've been a Switch guy for the last 4 years. Like, I basically played it exclusively, and it didn't matter where the indies dropped. I wanted to play them on Switch, right? That has changed for me now. and knowing that the devs behind those games are going to see a bigger cut, that warms my heart, honestly, because the people that are providing that entertainment, I want to see them as successful as possible, right? I want them to be able to make that next game. And I think it's also enticing if they end up having a game that has some kind of DLC or something like that, they're going to see that bigger cut. They'd probably want to purchase it on the Xbox and be playing on the Xbox. And that's a win for Microsoft.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And again, because they're looking to have some, as I think what they're trying to do, because I did the count this morning before we went live. I said, let me take a look and see exactly how many games are currently on Xbox Game Pass. 385 games. That includes, of course, the games that are in EA Play. So for $15 a month, you are getting first party day and date. You are also getting 385 plus games, because they advertise it as 100. Play the best 100 games, and they're almost quadruple that amount in there. And they do that to they have been doing that to get people to look at the service and say, wow, we're really doing something special here. I have to get involved. I have to be a part of this, because they're offering so much value proposition, especially during a pandemic, is worth its weight in gold. 3-Bit, let's get your opinion on this. Obviously, you're working for some pretty big companies behind the scene, but by yourself, independently, you would consider yourself an indie, especially in the art world, because obviously, you do different things outside of working for some of these companies. Where do you fall in Microsoft potentially offering, and again, I use the word potentially because they poo-pooed this a little bit, offering indie developers an additional 18% more take home? I think that's a really big deal, and it's going to push people towards the service.
Yeah, I think this is definitely industry changing, and just another one of those things that entices developers to develop more titles for the Xbox. Like Mr. Bad was saying, or maybe it was you. I don't think this guarantees more exclusives, right? But this does entice developers for sure. And according to those leaked documents, I forgot who it was, but you have emails between Epic and Sony, and where Epic pretty much had to beg Sony to activate crossplay, and Sony's response was it wasn't really worth it money-wise.
Right, they have to pay them. They're the only publisher that's being paid for crossplay. That's a fact. Again, we're going to get into that in real specific detail on Monday, because it really does paint Sony as a villain, in my opinion. I understand it's a business, but man, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and it wasn't really till Sony took a cut, a percentage of game sales, in which they decided to activate crossplay. And that's pretty much all I was going to say. But that stuff starts to add up for developers, and 30% is the I would say the default across the 3 different platforms, unless I'm mistaken, in which you have to add the additional percentage cost of those added crossplay features to be on that service. So essentially, that stuff, it adds up. And not only is it that they're adding value for the consumer with services like Game Pass, they're adding value to entice the developers as well with this. So yeah, this is big for both indie and AAA studios who are thinking about making deals for exclusive things with Sony, and this will be in the back of their mind. I would think oh wow, it's really cheap over there to put my game on that platform. But Sony does have the overall bigger market, so that's
they do. Yes. Yeah.
For consoles. So this is just Microsoft's way of competing and incentivizing developers.
I got a question for you, 3-Bit.
Yeah.
Since you're a developer and whatnot, do you think this move would? I mean, it's not in stone yet, right? Do you think moves like this, like the not charging for crossplay, possible 12% cut, would this happen if Microsoft was on top, if they were the market leader? Do you think that would
probably
be...
not? But I don't know. I think Phil, he's very he's different. He's definitely, he does not think like a normal, I guess, Xbox head would think, like as we've seen in the past, right? Like his vision for what Xbox is definitely forward thinking. Like I don't think like the basis of what Xbox or the industry was in the past was that you need exclusives and they need to be on my platform in order for you to compete. And that's where Sony is still thinking. Where they're starting to go in the route of PC though, where now Microsoft is introducing this thing like, hey, we are a platform. You can experience things on the Xbox or the PC. So he's introducing a new mindset for gamers, and at first it seemed like a lot of gamers didn't understand it and sort of rejected the idea. But now it's just like it's the thing you expect, Xbox and PC day one for their titles, right? So it's not exactly I don't know. I really respect Phil, because I think that's really forward thinking. Like if I were to make that decision back then, I'm like, no, that's how you compete too. I would probably think the same thing as Sony, just because it was normal for developers and gamers back then. But now it's Xbox PC, and now everyone can play, and that's awesome. But yeah, I think this whole thing does when it basically brings to mind for developers like, hey, we could actually make a bigger cut on the Xbox. So it's not gonna it might help with like exclusive deals, like maybe Epic or someone's gonna make a deal with Sony for exclusive DLC or something, but then they're like, but we could recoup those costs on the Xbox because it's actually cheaper to put my game on there. So it does create that mind game at the same time, you know what I mean? So we'll see.
Yeah, awesome. Interesting. VJ, let's get your opinion on this. Obviously, if you're new to the program, of course, I want to encourage you to hit the subscribe button. Of course, if you're here and already enjoying the 20+ minutes of banter that we've been doing, that you hit the like button early and often. I wish that people can hit it twice, because obviously there is an algorithm that I'll never figure out, but we'd like to, get more people to not only subscribe to Double Barrel Gaming, but we also like to get more people to check out this show. Now, VJ, I want to go to you next, because if you don't know who VJ is, besides being a very elegant and well-spoken human being, probably the smartest guy on the panel, no doubt about that, he is been in the business from both sides of the coin. And I'm talking about as a developer and as a retail manager in the business. I'm very interested to get your opinion on this, VJ, because when you talk about, when you say 3%, you're like, whatever. 5%, you kind of shrug your shoulders. But when you tell an indie developer who has 14 people on their staff and still have to worry about health insurance, making sure people can, pay their rents and their mortgages, and you tell them, hey, listen, we will give you 18% more of take home instead of the 30% that you're paying over there. You only have to pay 12% over here. What do you think? I mean, what is going to happen to those developers? Do you think that if this does happen, again, folks, it has not happened yet, so we're talking a lot of hypotheticals here, but again, the cat is out the bag. Where do you think people are going to want to put their software?
It seems apparent that, I know you asked a few questions there, Boom, so I'll try to tackle them in some sort of order. I think it's obviously apparent that Microsoft are following in the steps of Epic, but taking a larger stride in terms of reducing the distribution fees even further. I'm not well versed on the PC side of things, so I'll do my best and obviously fact check everything I'm saying. But I guess the question that most are probably asking, will Steam or Epic react? Or a better question is, do they even care? And another question that came to my mind is, why is Microsoft taking the plunge now? And why did Epic initially take the seemingly sort of messianic do right by developers step themselves? For Epic, for the moment at least, it's perhaps to arrest Apple and others, I suppose, in their attempts to sort of level accusations of hypocrisy at Epic during this sort of very public legal squabble with Apple and whatnot. I don't clearly know the economics of the situation, but when looking at Epic and from their perspective, and they're looking at the licensing revenues that, say, Unreal Engine was generating, which is what, about 5% of gross revenue of every dollar when $1 million in revenue is achieved. And again, check that. But Epic would have looked over at Steam, right, with envy, knowing that they've missed a trick, right? Because right under their noses, there's a simple but smart opportunistic distributor, albeit that they do make some games and IPs and themselves, but they're generating almost, I think it's 6 times more revenue on the back of games built in many cases on the back of sort of Epic's Unreal Engine 5 tech, right? And you only have to look at Steam. I think their recent numbers were something like they have like 75% of global market share when it comes to the sale and distribution of PC games. And that in turn has allowed them to generate more than 65 million active daily users. And that number is rising. And we've talked about Steam, right? And Xbox getting together and so on and so forth, and why it does and doesn't make sense. But if you look at the trajectory of Steam's revenue growth and take into account their last publicized results, I think was a few years ago, and this is a best guess on my part, but you have to suggest that the last few years in terms of revenue growth, they must be somewhere between 12 and 14 billion dollars. And let's be clear, in terms of publishers, major publishers do already, for all intent and purposes, have and forevermore enjoyed preferential retrospective revenue share splits or tiered royalty rate systems from platform holders like Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft, as well as distribution service holders such as Epic, Epic now, Steam historically, and I think GOG and Stadia to a degree. And to sort of illustrate my point, Valve already have, I think, is a sort of certain preset or pre-agreed revenue goal post system whereby Valve will take up to a reduced 20%, right, of a distribution fee, right, once you hit certain measures, right, or metrics. And obviously that comes down to how successful your game is. And I do know that Sony's is definitely retrospective, but Epic, on the other hand, have gone a step further, right, and removed any goalposts and barriers for all the small developers out there, or of which there, I think, as Josh said quite eloquently, right, that there are so many now, right, and he'd like to see them have a lot more reward in terms of the work and effort they put in over a number of years. And they've simply said, look, it's 18% flat free. There's no hurdle jumping or overcoming insurmountable barriers, and so on and so forth. And again, as Josh has said, sorry, I missed what Mr. Badbit said. I was off feeding the cat. This definitely serves smaller devs. Therefore, all small developers can enjoy the benefits larger publishers to a degree already enjoyed and have done for some time. It's just not publicized, right? Maybe those docs need to be leaked by Boom. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's a level playing field for everybody. But however, Epic went about leveraging this, I think, first and foremost for positive PR purposes, as well as looking at the amount of business that Steam were building, and on the back of something that they had built and Unity had built, and so on and so forth. I said Epic, the seemingly sort of messianic savior, but note that as far as I can tell, Epic still earn an additional 5% from Unreal Engine-based games, right?
Yes,
taking their percentage to around maybe circa 23%, give or take. So I've got no issues with that, but it's good to know, right? But the turn of phrase, the top and tail of it comes to mind. It's smart, and that's fine. And now you go back to what the main top point of the topic was was Microsoft, right? Who typically allow and observe other industries to flourish and ripen before stepping into that arena, because they're just not interested in doing things at the low end of the business, right? That's just not the makeup of their company. And as far as I can tell, they have a very little market share of the PC gaming distribution market. And if their market share is in fact in the single digit lane, then they obviously want a slice of the huge pie Steam, Epic, and I think I mentioned GOG and Stadia, that are seemingly for sort of filling their boots with. For Microsoft, a 30% distribution fee of not much of the pie, shall we say, isn't as lucrative as 12% of a potential $10 or $20 billion industry, especially if there is especially if it's sort of how can I put it, not their true end game. And what Epic and Microsoft are really intent on doing is to disrupt the market and increase increase their user base count. If indeed we believe, right, that Steam has 120 million monthly active users and 65 million daily active users, right? And because I don't know, those are reported numbers. I don't know if they're accurate, but they're obviously probably got to be somewhere around there. So as a layman, I would think that Microsoft's strategy is to be relevant everywhere this time around, and that's sort of speaking to what 3-Bit was talking about in terms of Phil not being, the traditional CEO of a gaming division, right? And for him, it's bringing more PC-based customers into the sort of Microsoft ecosystem and do everything that they do, everything that they can to retain these clients or consumers by selling them games first and foremost, with the ultimate goal. I think, as you just mentioned, Boom. I think when you were talking to Mr. Badbit, is the ultimate goal is to use this model as a Trojan horse to get you to subscribe to Game Pass, and I guess the question is, why do gamers care? The retail price is the retail price, no matter where you prefer to shop for your game. And I would say a percentage of PC gamers won't care, as they will continue to purchase the games where they prefer to do so. But to Josh's point, for the remainder that do care, will at least want to purchase games where it benefits the developer. And Microsoft will grow and build on the back of that with other initiatives, right? And everything, for me right now, for Phil, what he's doing this early on the generation is a means to an end for Microsoft. The end game is users and subscribers, and that means more feasible cash flow and an overall predictable and self-sustaining business model, which everybody loves, right? Especially if you're in business and especially if you're a shareholder. So for the moment, at least, it's for Phil and Xbox, you can see how they're going about their business. We talk about it week in, week out. For you, Boom, it's a daily thing, right?
Yeah.
So there's no stone being left unturned when it comes to Microsoft and Xbox's gaming business goals. Will it happen in terms of console platform holder fees? All 3 console platform holders have reasonable retrospective royalty tier systems which reward well-performing games. But that perhaps recently that's changed. I don't know. And perhaps with the amount of 2,000 games in the last several years from indie developers, that perhaps it is time for change. But for digitally sold games as well, 30%, which we talk about, is what I will say it like this: it's the boilerplate entry-level distribution fee number attached to the front door, which can be bettered through performance, unless you're Apple and you just don't care for the moment, at least, right?
Right.
And at the end of the day, it all depends on Microsoft. And if the business metrics or the analytics that they're working on in the background, and obviously that's how these documents come about, right? Because there's tons of that stuff going on in the background. I mean, Microsoft spend, $25 billion on R&D, right? Which a lot of it doesn't see the light of day, but they have to, right? They're pushing the industry and the world forward. But if it makes sense in reducing fees to entice more publishers to place or developers to place games in Game Pass on day of release, we just don't have the data to really prove or disprove this fact. And Microsoft will have it to a degree. And obviously we know that they have the deep pockets to support it, with the caveat, in small print on the bottom of all licensing agreements, right, or distribution agreements, terms and conditions are subject to change without prior notice if things don't quite go according to plan. But that's everything I've got to say on it anyway.
No, good stuff as always. Listen, folks, again, this is a very big hypothetical, but the documents are out there. I've seen them personally. They were put out there by numerous publications, and Microsoft did pull back on it. That doesn't mean that it's not going to come true. I think it's a part of their plan. I think that overall we're going to see this announcement. I thought that maybe this is, like I said, this is a kind of a GDC kind of announcement you find out and you read about, and the developer community is there, and they're like, wow, this is fantastic, because we're going to get more money. And at the end of the day, money is what talks, and Microsoft is looking really like the superhero to the not just the industry, but especially the smaller developers who only have so much money to put these games out there. But you know what? I want to definitely move on to the next topic. But before I do, I have to catch up some of the super chats that have come in. We have, I think, 2 of them that have come in so far. Let's see if I can. Yeah, the first one of the day comes to us from Sikio Yumi. Thank you so much for the $2 super chat. And they say, 18 exclusive games were redacted on the Xbox documents in court. I did not know that. And that's a big deal because that's 18 exclusives. Now, whether that's single A, double A, triple A, or even indie, we're not going to know. But that is a lot of titles. I definitely have to look into that. And we had another super chat just come in from, let me see, where is it? Here it is. Lady Foxfire. Hey, darling, hopefully you are well during this crazy time in the world. She drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, thank you, Boom and panel, for the great news, opinions, and content. I truly appreciate it. Even if I can't catch it live all the time, hit that like button, chat. Well, thank you so much, Lady Foxfire. And we definitely got to get you back on the show. You've been on here several times. We miss you. You always bring a lot of good conversation whenever you're on. So let's see if we can make that happen. But I definitely want to get on to topic number 2. And listen, folks, let me see that. We're going to skip that one. Okay, we have to talk about this. Joe, you're going to be the lead on this conversation. More court documents, of course, reveal that Xbox's internal review of Naughty Dog's The Last of Us 2 was a real eye-opener, Joe. And what's important here, and I think it needs to be said, is that by Microsoft doing this, it proves that they know exactly how Sony delivers their games, and they want to make AAA experiences like The Last of Us 2, like Horizon Zero Dawn, like God of War. So let me just read some of this review, Joan, and we're going to get your opinion on this. The Xbox review states, or at least part of the review states, it sets a new bar on what we should hope to be able to achieve going into the next generation of consoles. That quote, folks, is coming directly from Microsoft, but it continues, and it says this: The Last of Us Part 2 is an exceedingly rare video game where what it accomplishes in moving forward the art of narrative storytelling in video games as a medium ultimately outweighs whether or not everyone likes it or even everyone has fun playing it. That said, we loved it. We had a great time playing it and found ourselves still thinking about its characters and stories even after finishing the playthrough. The internal appraisal reserved its strongest praise for The Last of Us 2's visuals and narrative. So here are a couple more quotes, Joe. The visual quality and attention to detail in The Last of Us Part 2 is absolutely best in class in basically every area, and the overall presentation is significantly ahead of anything that other teams have been producing on consoles and PC, the review reads. One last quote: we were frequently stunned by the quality of the game's visuals, something that sadly seldom happens these days. It's even more impressive considering that the game features 2 separate playable characters with different groups of allies in different locations, along with flashback sequences taking place years before. Now, Joe, I need you to attack this from 2 angles.
Sure.
Okay, as a Sony fan, the writing is on the wall. But as an Xbox fan, hearing what the internal review, and mind you, this isn't just some random Tom, Dick, and Joe. This is people that work in a department that review other games and try to make Xbox games look and play as good. And that's why I think games like Perfect Dark, games like Fable, games like you pick whatever new game, Avowed, or even Ninja Theory's Hellblade, are going to look and play potentially very similar to what you see on the Sony side, because that is what they reviewed. That's in this review. That's what they say they want to give. Joe, what are your thoughts on this?
It's crazy to see what's coming out of Epic and Apple lawsuit, man. It's getting wild. Even like the emails between like Phil Spencer and like, Tim Sweeney of like,
it's funny. They're actually funny.
It's embarrassing for everyone. Like every single company that is trying to redact as many things as possible, the things that are getting out there, it's wild. and it's really typically not the best look for anyone. When I take a look at this review thing that they do, I'm not particularly like blown away by any of the details, because this is something that happens in not just video games, but like anywhere.
Ford does it to Chevy. Chevy does it to Toyota. Toyota does it to Hyundai.
Yeah. It's kind of internal reviews. One great example is like Apple does it with Samsung. Samsung does it with Apple, Android, all those things. It's internal reviews that are strictly like, what the hell is our competition doing that we're not doing, or what is our competition doing that or not doing that we're doing. So like this review, it seems like someone at Microsoft really liked the game. I think it's funny. I don't know why, but it also goes to show that Microsoft knows what's up. They're trying to understand what works for Sony and what may work for them. And when we were talking on the trophy room last night, Greg made a really great point of, when it comes to Sony games, we know what those games are going to be, and genuinely the quality is going to be pretty damn good.
Yes.
Right? We're expecting a really great game. So when the game comes out and it's great, it's not really that much of a big deal as it once was. Whereas all Microsoft needs to start doing now, they got the pieces in a row here, is start delivering those games. And I think that's going to be a bigger deal as time goes on, because we're not accustomed to Microsoft pulling out the level of content that their competition has. Let's just be honest with each other, right? Halo doesn't pull the blockbuster numbers as it once did, nor the critical reception it once did. I love Halo. Doesn't take away from the fact that I love Halo, but it is what it is. And this is them saying, okay, so this is what our competition's doing. So let's see how we can have our teams, what teams could best tackle it. And I think what you said perfectly is like, you got games out there like Perfect Dark, like, Senua's Saga, really going out there and trying to push those technical barriers. Like, real talk, do you think, and the question for anyone can answer if you like Senua's Saga, when you took a look at that trailer, maybe a response to what PlayStation has done with the PlayStation 4's hardware in terms of games like Last of Us Part 2, where it's just like, oh shit, this game is beautiful. It's the same thing goes with this. I'm sorry for Chris. So for that, it's it's really them trying to be brutally honest. We oftentimes as fans try to defend these companies when oftentimes these companies are their own harshest critics. And it's awesome to see that they went out there and said, you know what, this game really good. And I think we can do it too. So though I'm not like surprised that they did an internal review, I really hope that they take those things into consideration when going into those single player experiences that they want to deliver. So, yeah, that's all I got for you. And again, I wonder if it's like Phil, who's doing the review, because that was really glowing.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll put it this way. It's great to see that they not only have an internal review process, which I think we kind of knew that all these companies do, but now we have it officially on paper that they do. What's interesting is their entire breakdown of The Last of Us 2 and basically saying in a nutshell that is what they want to bring to their Xbox customers with their IPs. I think that in itself is ultra important.
Yeah.
It really does put Microsoft in a light that may, because there's been people to ask, well, why don't we Xbox players get that kind of content? Now, granted, we have. You can say whatever you want about Quantum Break. It was too much storytelling. It was only 720p. I freaking loved that game so much. I got 1,000 out of 1,000 achievements, and that wasn't easy. Okay, that game was awesome. Alan Wake. Okay, yeah, sure. It was 360. I loved Alan Wake. Those as a matter of fact, I was playing on Tuesday's Xbox Factor podcast. You got a chance to see Rise Son of Rome, which still looks incredible, and it does look like a Sony game. To be honest, it really does. Josh, let's get your opinion on this. This was when I was reading it, and there's a lot more here. let me just read another excerpt from it, Josh, and I'm going to get your opinion on it. The verdict goes on to highlight the game's narrative-driven walking simulator chapters. Now, it says this: while these may not be what many gamers are expecting, they are exceptionally well done and really show what other games, especially pure narrative adventure games, should be aspiring to accomplish with their character dialogue, presentation, and voice acting. And the last quote, Josh, is that it says this: that the player doesn't have the ability to greatly influence or determine the outcome of the narrative, but might prove to be important to many players. However, we would argue that not every video game must be about a player using role playing with their character's story. So, I mean, Josh, hearing these glowing reviews, you know, this is Microsoft's internal review process. I'm excited that they're doing this, because what I think is going to happen is, as Xbox fans, the games that we want to be delivered with big stories and lifelike graphics and incredible cliffhanger endings are going to be coming in the form of many of their first-party IPs. What do you think about this review?
I think it's great. I think it's great to hear, to see what Microsoft is looking at and what they think gamers expect. Halo 5, the best storytelling in that game came from the podcast, right? Not in the game itself. I feel like early 360 days, Gears of War really set up a great narrative. They had the Mad World commercial, right? They were doing some of this back on the 360 days, and they've only been playing catch up ever since. Where I get a little bit like nervous is I don't want them to sway so far that we end up just getting like copies of these PlayStation games. Like, I still want Perfect Dark to be a first-person shooter. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but that's the Perfect Dark I grew up with.
They said it was first person. They've already confirmed it. Yeah.
Perfect. So that's good. That's good for me to get that. I haven't I bought a PS4 from a friend, and I still have never picked it up. It's still sitting in Portland. I never went to go get it. So I had a PS3, I had a PSP. God of War is an incredible series. I love it. Like, I love how brutal it is. I love that gameplay. The Last of Us, I'm excited to play it, but to be honest, it doesn't really have a lot of there's not much pull there for me. I'm watching you play Titanfall. I'm an Xbox fan, and I mostly play on Xbox because of the shooters. That's what I love, right? And it's the same. It's the kind of entertainment I enjoy. If I watch movies, I want to see stuff exploding. I want to see superheroes. I want to see Jedi. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
I love a good story as much as the next person. Don't get me wrong, but I also want to just jump into the action. That's what I'm about. So I'm afraid with The Last of Us, I'm actually going to get bored. That's what I'm worried about for me. Overall, I think it's good if Xbox can have a large spectrum of games to put out and reach multiple audiences and multiple just to reach a larger audience. I think it's all good.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing. I don't think Senua's Saga is going to become what Horizon Zero Dawn is. I don't expect Perfect Dark to become what Uncharted is. I think what the tale that's being told here from me is one of the biggest things with Microsoft has been the quality of graphics with their things, like many of their games. Now, I like I said, I have to say again, I have quite enjoyed everything I've played on Microsoft. I enjoyed Sunset Overdrive. I enjoyed Quantum Break. I enjoyed a lot of their first-party games that a lot of people didn't enjoy. That felt that they weren't up to par. And if you feel that way, hey, good on you. The Medium is another example. Is it AAA? Yeah, sure. Jump in.
If I could just jump in at Josh's point, I'm so sorry. But that's it's a terrific point that you guys are making. Oftentimes I hear from Xbox folks, they're like, oh, I want to play games. I don't want to play movies, right? There's, PlayStation games are very different. They are more blockbuster cinematic-y. At least that's the vibe or what everybody's telling me. And so when you take a look at like what defines an Xbox game, how do you balance consumers' expectations or Xbox consumers' expectations with the games that they're going to be making? Because what if it is just a what if, but like what if Senua is more like a Horizon? What if, again, just purely speculative, no whatever, but like what if Perfect Dark's kind of like an Uncharted? How do Xbox fans react to that? I think there has to be a balance between that. I don't think what this internal document says is that, Senua was Horizon. I think they're analyzing what makes those games so successful that we could mirror on our end, not one for one, but taking the essence of and putting that in their games. I think that's Xbox's mentality there, but it's a balance. I think they're going to have to.
Yeah,
achieve.
I agree. I think that's a fantastic point, that there needs to be a balance, because I don't think Microsoft wants to make Sony games, and Sony doesn't want to make Microsoft games. They're doing their own thing in their own way. Sony did it better in the last generation, and if you not okay, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but I think that what we're going to see, based on different people being in charge. Phil Spencer loves gaming, right? And he plays games that go all the way from indies like Lost Words that he bragged about, and I got the chance to interview the developer and founder of Sketchbook Games, and he plays AAA bombs like, of course, Destiny 2, which has had an incredible run in the last few years. So I think when you see reviews like this, what it tells me is that they are taking game development serious. And I think that, again, I'm not suggesting that, Xbox games are somehow going to look and feel and play identical to PlayStation 5 games, but they're at least going to have a cinematic appearance to them, something that I have personally been asking for. VJ, I'm going to come to you last, because I know you're going to have a very elaborate point on this, and I'm very interested to hear it, especially when you start talking PlayStation games versus Xbox current games. But I want to go to 3-Bit first. 3-Bit, as an indie developer, as someone that works with multiple companies and has done your own artwork, where do you fall with this internal review for The Last of Us, and how do you think it's going to impact Xbox moving forward?
To me, it's really cool to see other studios study their competitors' games. It does remind me of those mini school trip moments I would have at other studios I worked for, and when reviewing other games or even testing their own games, you can forget you're working at that point if you're passionate enough about what you're doing or working on. But yeah, I think it's very awesome. Last of Us 2 is a AAA title that is extremely polished, and I think Xbox does focus on its strong suits, which is good. But I think if you're always open to learn from someone else, it's a good thing. And I think most Xbox games that are coming out right now are first person or RPG based. When they started branching out with their mini studios, it's amazing that they're open to learn enough from other teams. And like Babbitt was saying, yes, gamers can defend these companies and sort of erase some of their faults to like praise the brand essentially. But it's nice to see a team sort of be professional and say like, hey, this is what we liked about it. How can we either incorporate that in our games or basically internalizing your review as a company. And I think Naughty Dog does have a recipe for success, whether you like them or not. In their level in game design, there's amazing thought processes that Naughty Dog does with their games. Like, how do you tell a player where to go without taking them out of the experience, and their solution in certain levels was to code some of the environments to be like yellow, and that indicates where you should go, and it works sort of psychologically. So it's really cool to see that these companies are internalizing their reviews to really step outside of who you are and potentially make something great in the future. Because I think like it's amazing to work on your strengths, and there are reasons like what Josh was saying, like he goes more towards shooters, and that's what Xbox is very strong at. But sometimes it's good to look at what you are creating and just be like, okay, we are really strong in this area, but how can we improve? Otherwise, you won't move as a company. You're staying stagnant is a way to lose in a lot of different ways. And
yep.
I think Microsoft is definitely innovating in a lot of different areas. And this is just, it's cool to see that this is also going on in the background from what we see, like Game Pass and all this other stuff. But it's cool to see that internally they are thinking about these things and how to improve overall.
No, that's a fantastic point. VJ, listen, as someone that has seen both sides of the coin in the business, and which is another reason why I love having you a part of this show. When you hear the excerpts from this, and there were a lot more, folks. I actually have, if you want to read the document yourself, I have it in the show notes. You just click it and you can read through it. There was a lot revealed here. But again, this is a conversational podcast, so we only have so much time. I'm interested to get your opinion on how this review makes Xbox game studios better at their job.
I sometimes hate you, Boom. You come up with such brilliant topics, and I have no idea how to tackle them because there's so many ways to come at them. I think first and foremost, Boom, if you want to make a great game or anything really, then you have to put your ego aside and play gracefully with ideas that appear in other games, especially if those ideas are the ones that you want to integrate into your own production. And observing is a progressive way of thinking. So anyone who was arguing with that, should have their head examined. But I would say that the reviewing and dare I say, there's probably other documents analyzing the games that they're testing in and amongst different studios of especially competing features of games, and especially if it pertains to the game you're currently making. I would say it's common practice amongst studios, and I think 3-Bit can speak to it far better than I can, right? And I think he did, and it's been a practice that's been around for decades, and that in itself is, as I said, it's not a new practice. It's for people with inquisitive minds that want to progress. That's really what it's about. But with respect to the Last of Us Part 2, I think we were talking about, I would really have preferred to have read the internal review for God of War 2018. Look, Naughty Dog and Santa Monica do have sort of occasional criticism or accusations thrown or leveled at them, respectively speaking. But if you're a talented young or even a semi-experienced dev, these are, in my mind, no doubt two of the most creative, exceptional, and tough schools to work at and glean an education from, or ply your trade at, so to speak. The thing about Naughty Dog specifically here that we're talking about is that they are very good at executing their games, and especially the production values of what they're doing to a very high technical level. And they've been doing this for a very long time. It's the hallmark and makeup of the studio, and I think that's a really important thing, right? A team that's been built around actually producing this kind of content. It's not something you can easily mimic with money and talent. You need an exceptional vision holder, which I've talked about loads of times, and especially when especially when we're talking about Halo Infinite, right? And Joseph Staten, heading up the project. And it's not just a vision holder, but the vision holder needs the right skill set, and those are few and far between. For better or worse, this is Naughty Dog's sort of underpinning strength when it comes to their specific games. It doesn't always make for a universally popular game or bestseller, and we've seen that right very recently, but it does garner and I should say deserve respect, right? And I'm sorry about this, I don't mean to sort of shout abuse on your show, but the video from King Thrash recently tries to get this point across, although perhaps a little intensely and not to everyone's sort of palatable or pleasant taste. We know the quote, right? truth or expression as it goes, right? That's excited. Sorry, that's existed, right? Sorry, since the beginning of time, right? Ever since we sort of, as a human race, began drawing and painting on the inside of cave walls, should I say? Art is an expression that comes from within. It's not easily mimicked. And great art, and even poor art, depending on your disposition and your palette, will irrevocably inspire others and generations to come. And I'm sure Xbox and every dev studio, for that matter, that's worth their value, disseminate and review games and attain inspiration and strive to apply technical brilliance to their games where applicable. But boom, realistically, that should only be to the degree that it's necessary or required. And it's determined also by the technology that you're using as well. And especially since some certain features or certain aspects of other games may not be as critical as other facets of your game that you have planned in order for it to do well. And you can't say Xbox games don't do well, right? Even though they don't have some of the, the bells and whistles that, say, Naughty Dog games have. But you have to leverage the strengths of the studio, the team, and the technology. And Xbox's stable or plethora of studios have many strings to their bows, and many of which we haven't even seen yet. So I think it's early to judge this generation. And something that would be perhaps important to you, the panel, or even the chat, if you're interested in this sort of thing. There are GDC conference videos in abundance that exist on YouTube, and they're added to frequently. And last week, I think it was added, I observed and listened to a video called "Taking an Axe to the God of War" gameplay, and it depicts the journey of 10 combat team members reinventing gameplay for 2018's God of War. Doesn't matter what game you're working on, it can be daunting, debilitating, and draining at times. The gentleman was trying to condense a multiple-year process and a talk that lasts for less than 45 minutes, and there's a lot to take in. And again, you don't have to like God of War in order to sort of admire and respect who was attributed to that product and what went into it. Again, to cement my point about key roles in studios and the difference between a good studio and a bad studio always comes down to the vision holder, in my experience. Yeah, and again, 3-bit being in the industry far more recently than me may have a completely different perspective, and that's fine. But Santa Monica Studios, boom, this is well documented, were going nowhere for years, right? Sony had a state-of-the-art studio and infrastructure, 150-man team, and arguably some of the best talent in the country. But however, it was still aimless. Something was missing, and the puzzle was only really completed when Corey came back to Santa Monica. Yeah. And I know this is off topic, but I think it's really relevant. I'm intrigued to see the impact Joseph Staten will have on Halo Infinite, although we have to caveat this with the fact that he was drafted in at the back end of the project. He's been brought on to consolidate, galvanize, and heighten the quality of Halo. However, it will be important to see, his Midas touch, and I'm sure we're going to see signs of it in the game. And all I'm really trying to say is just not enough just to have talented people and a plethora of studios. There's so much more to game development than just that. Hence the huge bet or investment in Todd Howard, right? And that cements my point even further, and his producers that he's handpicked. And that was on the back of the clamor for Warner Brothers and Rocksteady Studios beforehand. I think, in closing, Phil's own words encapsulate the sentiment when he said something along the lines of, and I'm paraphrasing, we aren't afraid to take risks that don't work or don't pan out, but they want to try. And that should tell you everything you really need to know in terms of where Xbox and Phil and where he's leading all of his studio. And it's the nature of the beast, and it's the nature of gaming and the creative landscape for you, no matter what industry. And games industry put that to one side. But and this was obviously in relation to mixer and game development in the same interview. Overall, you have to say that Xbox carries the burden of proof squarely on their shoulders. And I think that is a really powerful place to come from. Don't take that as a negative. But they are surely well placed to usher in a new and exciting era for Xbox, and especially people that subscribe to Game Pass. So
great points as always. And I think you're right. I think that I've said this before. I'll say it again live on the air. If you missed it, they have stolen many pages out of Sony's playbook. And we have seen them do a lot of third-party deals. We've seen them do a lot of second-party exclusives. This is something that Sony did extremely well early on in the PlayStation 4 generation, until they were able to get their studios to drop these quadruple A bombs like the God of Wars, like the Horizon Zero Dawns, and so forth and so forth. And you know what? We're seeing that actually transpire right in front of us right now. Microsoft and folks, you really, I don't want to turn this into, because I want to move to the next topic, and I got to catch up some of the super chats, but I don't want to turn this into an Xbox Game Pass topic. But we have to understand for really just take a step back. If they are currently at 23 million subscribers, do you understand they got there without any new AAA bombs from their first party? That is a task that I don't think anyone would have thought in the summer of 2017 when they announced Xbox Game Pass, that all those years later in 2021, today's date, May 6th, that we would say with a straight face, they have 23 million subscribers, and they did that without their first party. Wait until like I said, if the AAA threesome, if you will, for September, October, and November turn out to be what I predicted as Forza. Oh my God, what's the Bethesda game? I can't believe it. Yes, thank you. Starfield and Halo back to back on top of all of these second party, third party deals and these indie games like The Ascent and many others like Scorn and Stalker 2 and Tunic and all of these games that are going to be really well received by the community going into Game Pass day and date. It really is a feat to be believed. And it's something that none of us would have thought from 2013, seeing how they really got their teeth kicked in and, in the last generation. They have come back in such a way that it is absolutely impressive. But let's move on to the next topic, folks. And, we have to talk about our very good friend, Joe, you might know who this gentleman is, Jeffrey Grubb from, of course, he was on the show a couple of weeks ago. We got some new information while he was a guest on my brother's podcast. That's right. Lord Cognito and the Iron Lords had Jeff Grubb on this week, or last Sunday, I should say. And they talked about Forza Horizon 5 and that it is, in fact, going to be held and in Mexico City and not in Japan, where many of the racing community, including myself, thought that the AAA game from Playground Games would take place. Now, we also got some information from Windows Central. Jez Corden, friend of the show, he posted a tweet last week saying he wanted to visit Mexico, following by a car emoji, dropping some hints that, of course, it would be going there. And now, this is a quote from VentureBeat's Jeff Grubb, who stated he was taking Spanish lessons, adding the fact that a car goes vroom in Spanish. Of course, he meant that to be facetious, and obviously, this is what Jeff had to say on the subject of Forza 5. He basically confirmed that it is Mexico, the setting. He says, let's start with Forza and the Mexican flag. I wonder what that means. And he joked. And then he says this, the rumor was always Japan, right? But I got some fake screenshots a long time ago that I never shared that were in Japan. And I was like, that's not real. It turned out, in fact, it wasn't. But I wasn't looking into it too hard because I'm like, well, find out when we find out. And then Jez is like, I'm going to Mexico with my car. And immediately a couple of sources are like, oh, I wonder why Jez Corden is saying that. So he says this in closing. So, yeah. It's going to be in Mexico City. Joe, let's go to you first, brother. Listen, Forza Horizon 5, Jeff Grubb had predicted, he heard from a source early on this year that we would be getting a new Forza. He believed it was going to be Forza Motorsport. I mean, not Motorsport, Horizon 5 instead of Motorsport. And now we basically have confirmation that it is in Mexico, not in Japan. Are you excited to see where they take this groundbreaking racing series?
You know me, I'm bad at racers, and I'm like, you know what? Y'all enjoy them, and that's good. I'll just sit here and watch people be way better than me than I'll ever be. I can't, I can drive in real life. I'm a really good driver, but like I can't. It's racers and fighters. I just can't do. But I love the Horizon series because it's less about me being just absolutely terrible at racers, and it's more about like driving through the environments. And I don't know about you guys, but like I'm tired of locations being set in, New York, London, or Paris. So I want to see more vibrant colors. I want to see it.
You'll get that in Mexico. Maybe they can even incorporate Day of the Dead into that.
Exactly, and they will, right? Like putting those different cultures in there. I would have loved to see Puerto Rico. That's my homeland over here. I would have loved to see that, because that island's just absolutely drop dead gorgeous and colorful. But like Mexico, awesome choice, because also Mexico, very popular with Xbox is very popular over there.
Yes, they are.
So it's a really it's going to be a really awesome thing to celebrate the culture of Mexico and really take a hopefully deep and authentic look at the landscape and the culture and celebrating it. So I'm really excited by this. Give me more locales that wasn't part of the British monarch, I think, is what I really want in video games. And seeing something that's not like in Australia again, or seeing something that's in Mexico is really awesome. So I want to. I'm actually very curious. I'll definitely try this out for a few hours, be real bad at it, just to drive around and to take in the locales. I think this is cool. I would have loved to see the neon skyscrapers that would be like Tokyo or something like that. But yeah, I'm not disappointed one bit. Awesome news. And great. Again, Forza continues to be one of just the best racing, if not the best racing franchise at this moment. So I'm excited to see what they deliver for sure.
Yeah, no, 100%. Let's before I get to Josh, let me catch up with some of these super chats. CYV Studios drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, anybody excited for Metro Exodus in 4K 60? Yes. As a matter of fact, I downloaded it. Well, I didn't re-download it. I moved it onto my hard drive because I definitely want to take advantage of the fast loading from the SSD. And I'm going to start recording some footage later on this afternoon for Metro because I loved it. I didn't play all of the DLC, so I'm going to try and play that and record it as well. Jimbo Jangles in the chat drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, hey, Boom and crew, just wanted to know what everyone's dream announcement for E3 is. Have a great day, and no, Sony, you don't get a cut of Boom super chat. Well, thank God Sony does not need Boom's money. My personal excitement that would have me literally jump out of my chair, which I'm going to be podcasting it live, would be the announcement of a new Killer Instinct or Banjo-Kazooie. Those are the two ones that I really, really want to see brought back in a big way. I think it's almost it's a travesty of gaming justice that we don't have either of those in 2021. And again, I hope Phil hears that a good family platformer would be great. And you know what, if you can't I think there's a story we're going to talk about either tomorrow or Monday where the second developer that took over for Killer Instinct said that they in fact want to do a proper sequel. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. We have Anon in the chat, drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, it's ironic how we all love the Xbox Series X, even though the launch exclusives are minuscule compared to the Xbox or anything other Xbox launch. Also, why no UBC support? Listen, dude, I didn't make it. We'd have to ask Jason Ronald that.
What's UBC? Universal.
The fast charging, the USB-C.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought there is a USB-C.
No, they don't have that for the X for some reason.
Jason Ronald, let's start that petition. Give us USB-C.
It's funny. I actually reached out to him, and he was nice enough to get back to me, which is pretty cool.
Dude, he's such a sweet dude. He's such a sweet dude.
Yeah, he's definitely.
And honestly, I'll take no USB-C of how small, compact this Series X is.
It really is small, yeah. And Series S is even smaller. Like I have one in the room, it's
nuts.
It's crazy.
It's stupid. It's stupidly impressive. And there's wizards. There's wizards that are working in that engineering department, man.
Yeah, no doubt about that, Joe. Gerald Mack in the chat drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "Shout out to the panel, shout out to Boomstick, the James Brown of podcast. Thank you so much for that, dude. Hardest working in show business. Thanks, I definitely appreciate that. That compliment goes a long way. Trust me when I tell you. And yeah, you know what, dude, I love it. I love hanging out with the community, and I love putting out the content. We have Shane Jałkowski drops a very generous $5 super chat with the dope Predator avatar. I like that. That's dope. Just wanted to drop a little support. Love the work you do. Keep it up. Unfortunately, I didn't make it to the live, so I'm going to have to listen on 45 minutes behind. Yeah, dude, listen, I appreciate you being here, brother. And yeah, it'll go up in video on demand as soon as we are done. Dan the Man Cunningham, generous friend of the show, he drops an outstanding $5 super chat. Says, "Hey, Boom and crew, hope all is well. Just chiming in to show my support. P.S. We're fighting Sunday. Mass Effect 1 all the way." Yeah, Dan, I first of all love that you're here. Thank you so much for the generosity, but I'm going to have to boo you because no, Mass Effect 2 is the GOAT, not Mass Effect 1, not Mass Effect 3.
I agree.
And there you go. 3-bit agrees. So
suck it, Ains. Suck it, Ains. It's the truth. You need to hear this.
That's right, brother. That's right. And you know something? I can say with a full heart that I got the achievement, that I literally jumped and almost hit my head on the ceiling, that my entire crew saved, was saved in the last mission. Not one person died. Nice. And I have that achievement. That is a hard achievement to get because it's a lot of big decisions you have to make. And that was on my third playthrough of that game, which I'm just obviously so happy. A lot of people
died on my mission.
Yeah, no. They were my family members. I didn't want anyone to die. But Josh, let's get your opinion on this. Forza Horizon 5. Not only is it going to Mexico, but we have it on good authority that it is probably releasing in 2021 around the holiday. What are your thoughts on the confirmation of where you're going to be driving all of these very expensive cars?
To be honest, I don't care where it is as long as we just get to race some more. That's it. Like I love the series. Even though I was like mainly Nintendo the last 4 years, when Horizon dropped, I stopped to play it. When 3 dropped, we spent the entire holiday with family staying with us playing those Hot Wheel tracks, you know? So I'm also curious on what is, 3 was Hot Wheels, 4 was Legos. What are we going to see? What are we going to see this time?
Minecraft.
Mega blocks.
Mega blocks. I like it.
Lincoln Logs.
Lincoln Logs. Holy cow. Tinker Toys. I'm old, folks. Tinker Toys even before me. Yeah, who the heck knows? I mean, listen, this is exciting because obviously we do have the confirmation. And I mean, obviously, if you're going to trust anybody, Jez Cord's a good source, but even better than that is Jeffrey Grubb. He takes his job very seriously. I had a chance to talk with him privately, had him on the show. He was an amazing guest. I think he's an amazing community member, and getting the confirmation has me excited because it's been a while. It's been a bit since we had a new Forza, either Motorsport or Horizon for that matter. And I really want to see what they're going to be doing. Anything else you'd like to add to that, Josh?
I mean, again, the fact that we may be seeing it this year, and that really does, like, it's the holiday is shaping up to be a great year for Xbox fans,
Yeah.
And that's a huge win because it's been, you guys know the exclusives have been a little scarce, and that hasn't stopped me from having a great time playing my Xbox. But
no, I agree. I it's funny. My backlog is even bigger than it's ever been, and there's no first party exclusives, and that's fine. I mean, listen, like I said, I'm very addicted to Second Extinction, and it had nothing to do with the fact that that team, I got a chance to interview them. I just love dropping down to the planet. I like doing a bunch of things, and I'm searching for particular guts right now so I can have my Gatling gun you have flame rounds, and I cannot wait to do that. I'm quite enjoying that. So yeah, is that an exclusive that maybe people will discount because it's a AA game done by a team of 35? Well, if you do, then shame on you. You're missing out on a good opportunity to play with your friends. And of course you can also play through single player. But let's get our 3-Bit's opinion on this. 3-Bit, we got the confirmation that Mexico City is where we're going to be hanging out, and obviously Mexico has some really gorgeous locales. And again, we're going to get a chance to see what the next gen Forza looks like. I think that in itself is super, super exciting. What are your thoughts on the confirmation from Jeff Grubb?
Yeah, I think location is definitely everything in a racing game. It's the thing that is most different looking from the outside as a racing title. When you think about like what is the difference between Forza Horizon 4 and like 5. I think Mexico sounds pretty cool. I would have liked to see Japan, this personally. If I were to think about it development wise, it can be actually easier to do these exterior environments in Mexico, and seeing that the previous Horizon games already has these amazing windows, wallpaper looking mountains and valleys. That will carry over quite easily for the newer title. And when you think about Japan, you think, like, what do you think about when you think about Japan? It's like the city, right? And then,
yes,
and the
of
crazy
course,
amount,
the neon lights and everything.
Yeah.
Yes,
the crazy amount of neon lights, and I could see that as being a challenge. So, while I would love to see them do a Forza in Japan, I could see it happen more so in like a DLC, or maybe since this is one of the first games for their like newer next gen titles, I would say. Then maybe they want to use this as a basis game to grow to a Japan in the future. I could see that happening, but either way, Mexico is great. I think they could do a lot with that. There's a lot of amazing vistas in Mexico, and a lot of changes of environments from like city to like it's just like amazing culture over there. So I think they could really spice it up with Mexico. But I do think that's why they probably opted for Mexico instead of a Japan. If people keep clamoring for Japan, I think it's just it's honestly easier to do Mexico, and like the exteriors and stuff like that. But I do think, because they are building upon a platform for Forza is going to be a platform, and then Horizon, this one is like their new next gen title, then they could use this as a basis for the future, for maybe Japan in the future, guys. I'm not holding out hope for that. So but yeah, it's gonna be great, I think.
I'm excited to see what the game looks like. I think that we're going to get 120 frames per second support, obviously, for a lot of reasons. But I listen, I just want a new Forza. I want to see what they can bring to the table. I want to see what these consoles can do. And you really do push the boundaries with racers specifically on new hardware. And I'm interested to see what they can do. And real quick, shout out to HTK360 in the chat. He says this: 400 people watching and only 157 likes. Yeah, folks, what's the deal with that? Like, I mean, I'm not charging you secretly. Your bank account will not get charged every time you hit the like button. Come on, folks, let's try and get this up to 300 before we get on out of here. We have another killer story. And listen, I mean, again, I don't know.
Wait, how many likes and how many people watching?
157 likes, and we actually have 450 people watching. So,
guys, if you don't like this show, you're gonna get bad luck. Like, you're going to find you're gonna find a hair in your next meal that's not your own. You know,
and you will never these wise words from Bad Bit.
Like, oh, what the hell is going on? And like, that's because you didn't like. So
yeah.
Think about the choices.
Yeah.
Think about the choices you're making. Think about the people you're not liking.
I love it. Thank you so much for that. Definitely appreciate that. But listen, folks, all jokes aside, putting out these shows, you'll never hear me complain about doing the work because I quite enjoy it. It's something that I look forward to doing each and every week. And now I've up to 4 live shows. It's not easy to do. I will tell you that my game playing has literally been cut in half because of so much, I don't read from the phone. I'm very professional. Anyone that's been on my show understands that when I send the show notes, and now I've scaled back. Like, my notes are 4,000 words. The panel members, their notes are not. They used to be. I just do bullet points now. There's a lot of writing that goes into this, and especially when you have to get quotes and stuff, you got to be right. So I double and triple check everything. It really, I don't think it's going to, cost you anything out of your pocket to hit the like button, especially if you are a fan of the show. So I would definitely appreciate that. Hey, listen, real quick, the Welsh Gamer in the chat. Welsh, what the hell is going on, brother? We got to get you back on the chair. Obviously, the Welsh gamer, if you don't know, he started the original. He's one of the original founders with me on the Xbox Factor podcast. He drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, Mr. Boomstick and the amazing Xbox Factor podcast panel. Absolutely loving the work. Been listening on demand all week in the gym. Yeah, this guy is ripped for sure. I really miss being a part of this. Yeah, we definitely got to get you back. Your chair is still here, and I have the cleaning folks dusted, so when you come to sit back in, it's going to be nice and pristine for you, nice and shiny. We're going to get him back here, but VJ, let's talk to you about something that 3-Bit said really jumped off the page for me. Is location is important, and I think that we have seen. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. People on the other side of the pond are probably going to boo me for this. I was not blown away with Forza Horizon 4's location. I thought it was good. I thought it was well done. It just didn't, make me like my favorite Forza is still 3. And it's probably going to remain that way for a while. I'm disappointed that it's not Japan. I'm not going to front. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. But, VJ, Mexico is a nice and it's a gorgeous place. A lot of open areas. It does seem like it's perfect for Forza. Are you excited to play Forza Horizon 5 in Mexico this fall?
Just before I answer that, I was going to say, Mr. Badbit, a hair in your next meal. I would say more like a mouse doing the backstroke in the bowl of your soup.
I love it. That's great. That's great. I love it.
I can't look. First of all, I can't speak in complete validation of Jeff's comment until we hear from official sources. But let's assume it's completely and utterly true. Look, I think I'm with you and with 3-Bit. I can't deny that racing around Mexico City and on occasion sort of stopping to view the city's architecture and its neighboring sort of regions and so on and so forth would be of interest if it is indeed the setting for Forza 5. And I'm I'm also sort of completely unaware, right, if street racing culture exists in Mexico City, etc., and so on and so forth. So I'm not so up on that. But at the same time, I think I'm with you, Boom, is that I'm really wrestling with the fact that I would have much sort of rather preferred exploring the cities and districts of Japan, such as Osaka, Tokyo, and Kyoto, and districts like Shinjuku, Shinagawa, and Akihabara. And, and most people that have been in gaming or are gamers, the latter district, many of us will recognize, from like sort of the imagery and photos shared on many a gaming website and the magazines of the 90s and throughout the last couple of decades. So 20 years ago, Akihabara, was the heart of Japan where locals and especially foreigners would go to enjoy the latest arcade machines and purchase all of the sort of their console gaming and pop culture needs. And that's why I was kind of getting attached to the sentiment that it might be set in Japan. And so it is from a completely selfish point of view. I can't also help thinking that with Forza being set in Japan, and I know it's not super important and it shouldn't be the decision that a game is sort of set upon or a developer should make the decision based upon, but it would have had perhaps been a better tactical and strategic play, perhaps supporting some facet of Phil's huge plan of attack or assault on the Asian gaming landscape and the potential business opportunities it could generate for Microsoft and obviously for Game Pass and Xbox and so on and so forth. Forza set in Japan may not have sort of turned the tables entirely, but I guess the goodwill and the awareness Forza would have generated for Xbox and Game Pass in Japan would have been very welcome. I don't know if you know this game, but I still very much remember the popularity of Tokyo Highway Battle on the PS2.
Wow!
And even on the Dreamcast for that matter, along with racing down Tokyo High Streets in Metropolis Street Racer from Bizarre Creations. I never quite got around to sort of expressing the Project Racing games that were on Xbox. But really, in terms of the topic and my limited knowledge of racing games and locations, that's all that comes to mind.
I mean, listen, again, look, I agree with you. I think we're all in the same sentiment that Japan would have been awesome. I've been calling for this for Japan for a location for even Assassin's Creed. Obviously last year's stellar PlayStation 4 exclusive It was in obviously feudal Japan. It was done. It really should have opened the eyes for the development community of where the next big game should be. And obviously, they've been working on Forza Horizon 5 for years, so they couldn't just pivot and say, okay, buy Mexico, Japan. I will say that I hope that both Assassin's Creed and the next Forza Horizon, or even Forza Motorsport for that matter, maybe that's going to Japan. Who knows? I mean, obviously that's a possibility, but we are not going to know until they, like you said, tell us. I do want to get to the last topic of the show, folks. This is going to bring us into the 2-hour mark, and it is a big one. We're going to be talking some Fable, folks. We got some new information. In the same week that we received new confirmation on Mexico City being the next location for Forza Horizon 5, we now know that Playground Games, who is currently also in development of the Fable Reboot, will be in fact using the same game engine that makes Forza Horizon look so impressive. In a story that I pulled from WCCF Tech, now it's been a while since we've heard anything about Fable's Reboot. Rumored ever since 2018 to be in development at Playground Games, the project was formally confirmed at the Xbox Showcase last E3 during July, and we got that CG trailer, but not much is known about the Fable Reboot other than it's being developed for both Windows 10 and PC and Xbox Series X and S, and that it'll be available to Xbox Game Pass subscribers day and date, just like all first-party Microsoft titles. However, a new software engineer job listing posted only a few hours ago the other day by Turn 10 on LinkedIn, and it does reveal that the game is being made with the Forza Tech engine. Now, as far as we know, Turn 10 isn't contributing to the project directly, but they do share the Forza Tech engine with Playground Games, and the blurb below, which of course they're talking about the job posting, makes it clear that it's being expanded precisely to accommodate the needs of the Fable Reboot. Now, obviously, they want this to have a huge impact on the reboot, which is expected to be a AAA title. And obviously, the Forza Tech engine is a powerful in-house engine normally used for Forza Motorsport, but I cannot wait to see, honestly, what they do with the tool set to support the new open world action RPG. Now, obviously, Joe, I want to go to you first on this, brother. The Forza Tech engine, I saw some people trying to downplay this engine as not being good enough for the Fable Reboot, and this is where I start to say, well, if you're not a developer, you probably don't know what the hell you're talking about, because it is a very powerful engine, and we've seen many developers, especially on the Sony side, use each other's engines that were used for one thing or another. Do you have any concerns about the Forza Tech engine being used for Fable?
No, I love when people are like, yo, so I saw a YouTube video, ergo, I know how to code now, and I'm master engineer, and I know all these things. I'm not going to sit you down and say, I know these tool sets in this custom engine. I think 3-Bit is the man to talk to about that.
We'll get his opinion,
sure.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But what I will say, as the Sony pony in the room, is that oftentimes they let their own developers create and craft their own custom engines so that they're familiar with the tech that they're making for that game. So I understand maybe people get a little worried because they see the DICE engine from EA, right? That being forced after the success of Battlefield on every single game, and having games like Dragon Age and Anthem suffer because of that engine, it being hard to make because it's such a, from what I understand, a shooter-centric engine. Now, that being said, having a studio that has crafted their own engine, so they know what they're doing with it, they know the limitations of it, they know hopefully how to expand it, that's fine with me. That's awesome. Excellent. Go for it. Does this excite me one way or the other? Not really. No, but it does give me confidence that Playground's like, hey, listen, this is our tool set. We're going to start using them. But honestly, I want to hear what 3-Bit has to say, because I think he's going to be the knowledge driver here. Not I.
No, absolutely, and obviously this is why we love having him on the panel. As a matter of fact, we'll come to 3-bit in a second. Josh, I want to grab your opinion on this. You, like myself, are big Fable fans, from what I understand, and it has been quite a many years since a new Fable, and this is one of those marquee titles that I consider to be a pillar for the Xbox brand. I mean, obviously, it's easy to equate. You know, you got your Halos, your Forzas, your Gears, but we're going to start seeing pillars in the forms of Perfect Dark and Avowed, and now Fable and Starfield and several others now start to really solidify the strength of these pillars that are going to hold up the Xbox brand. Do you have any personal concerns knowing what they've been able to do with the Forza Tech engine in the past being used for Fable?
I mean, it's Fable Cart confirmed, right? At this
Yes,
point?
Fable Cart confirmed. Absolutely.
So, I mean, I'm all about it. No, like kind of like Badbit said, like these people know what they're doing, right? Like if it's going to help the game, if it wasn't going to help the game, they wouldn't be doing it. So I don't really have any concerns at all as far as the engine goes. I'm concerned overall with Fable, like I am with all of Microsoft's major IPs. I feel like this is the generation that they need to prove themselves, and Fable, in my opinion, kind of progressively went downhill. Right, the first game was like so great. 2 was pretty good, and then 3, I didn't even feel like finishing it. You know, so I'm. From my perspective, anyway.
Real talk, you're better for it. 3 was abysmal.
3 was
it
tough
hurt
to finish.
My soul.
It was
Michael
tough to finish.
Fassbender is in that game, and it's as a Fable fan myself, Josh, hurts.
Yeah, and I would. I mean, look, if Xbox could do what Nintendo did with Breath of the Wild with Fable, I'm not saying copy it by any means, but I'm saying bring that amount of buzz, bring that amount of hype with a fantasy third-person RPG adventure. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I want to see from Fable.
Yeah, I mean, listen. We got a CG trailer. Obviously, it told enough in the few minutes of the trailer what we're going to be getting, that a lot of the humor is not going to be lost on the franchise. Zemi, if you're listening, brother, you still will probably be able to kick chickens. Not a fan of that. And some of the
lad.
Yeah, we definitely miss him for sure. I mean, again, you want to hear Zemi tell his tales about being afraid of everything, you can tune on Tuesdays Xbox Factor podcast, where he is currently residing as we speak. But I want to know what 3-bit has to say on this, because he is the professional in the room. 3-bit, obviously, I don't know if you had a chance to work with the Forza Tech engine or you didn't. I mean, I don't know if you can even suggest, even say it publicly whether you did or you're not. But do you have any concerns that they're going to adopt the Forza Tech engine for Fable the Reboot?
No, I don't have any concerns. I think when people think about engines, and they pretty much let's say the Forza engine, like, oh, that can only do cars, that can only do X, Y, and Z, and people sort of think about games as like only good for that specific genre. But the Forza engine is actually, it's very incredible. I remember seeing one of the artists who created the frog that you've seen in the CG trailers.
Right.
He basically said on his ArtStation page that this is pretty much what the actual game is aiming to look like. So if you're looking to see what the style of Fable is, and you want to go ahead and analyze that trailer, because that is pretty much what they're aiming for in terms of fidelity. And some of the new features in the Forza engine is the ray tracing and the technology of the Forza engine, between the physics, the AI, and the streaming technology with its open environments is really good. So I know they've had proof of concepts in the past for their open world streaming technology and basically making it better, like as you see mountains in the background without like hindering performance, and you can actually reach those areas, right? That's always the new thing in games. Like if you see it, then you can reach it. and that was like a huge thing in like Breath of the Wild and stuff like that. But they are really wanting to amp that up even further, and I know they've definitely talked about some of their restrictions for Forza, which is why they want to upgrade their engine. Like they want to upgrade their engine for the reasons like where the environments that you do see in the background, they can just pump more detail into your environments, right? And you already know they're going to want to use DX12, which delivers other features, which is pretty much just the ray tracing and so whatever else they want to add from the RDNA 2 kit. And without getting too nerdy there, it's basically just your games will look better. Your games will look better, it'll look shinier, and the lighting is what is pretty much the major difference in RDNA 2, just making it easier for the developers so that us as gamers get a better experience. And sometimes we don't even know why, like, wow, that looks better. I don't know why, but it looks good, and that's pretty much what they're aiming for. I think the Forza Tech engine is what they're building upon for the future is just better optimization. And it's like with Unreal Engine 4 to 5, the difference is it's easier for the developers. Like it's easier for the developers to give you better looking environments, but also have a pipeline that is easier for them to develop more Forza games in the future. So basically, what's different in Unreal Engine 5, when you guys have seen the demo, right? When she's like jumping through the environments and stuff like that, which is very impressive. But one thing they did mention in that demo, which I'm pretty sure Forza is also aiming for, is that they are able to have these millions of polygons and these really detailed rocks without any hindrance on performance. And that's what developers are always battling with. They're always battling with making sure not only the levels detailed, but that's actually playable. So when you're upgrading an engine, you're just making sure that it's playable. We really know that Forza looks gorgeous. That's not the problem. I don't think like the graphics for Forza and the lighting is just, it's top notch. It looks real. Like you some of the like you could take a screenshot in Horizon, sort of like fool some people if you know, take away the HUD and stuff like that. So your engine doesn't really determine the genre for a game. Like you can have Unreal Engine do all types of genres, first person, third person, racing. It does not matter. It's all about the tools that you're given. And I think Forza Horizon or the Forza Tech engine is very impressive in terms of the lighting. It's incredible. So yeah, I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't even know about the frog potentially being what the game looks like. I did not even see that interview with that regarding the artist. And if Fable the reboot does look like that frog, and that's what the game looks like, we are in for a real treat in regards to lifelike graphics that you see and people have been asking for on the PlayStation side for years. So I'm very excited, even more so. I'm a huge Fable fan. I've played through the original multiple times, the HD remake of the original. I really enjoyed 2. I really enjoyed 2. I played through that multiple times. 3, I beat it. I just wasn't as happy to play through it. There were a lot of big decisions made that made it not my favorite of the Fables for sure. But I want to get to VJ. But VJ, before I get to your brother, Sherman Jacobs in the chat drops a very generous $2 of chat and says, "Might Hot Wheels Unleashed launch into Game Pass?" Well, you know what? I hope so, because the deluxe edition is $100, and I really like that game, but I don't want to buy it on the the CG trailer. I want to see what that game actually looks like, because I'm a huge, I mean, if you're a kid, you probably played with Hot Wheels or Matchbox, at least as you were a kid. And I would love to play a Hot Wheels game for sure. We have Acute Perspective PJ drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, Ubisoft has announced today a new free-to-play Division game called Heartland. It's coming in 2022, and beta testing registration starts today. I just registered. Yeah, I just saw that pop up. Of course, I'm a huge Division nerd. I love it. And I'm definitely going to find out what Heartland is. I hope they can show exactly what the game is, and what perspective is the third person. I'm very interested to see. But VJ, let's get your final opinion on, and we'll get everyone out of here. We have we have some information on Fable. I think the biggest one is the engine being used, and that is the Forza Tech engine. And quite frankly, the Forza games do not disappoint when it comes to graphics. So I think that we're in for a real treat. What are your thoughts on this confirmation?
Look, I just want to speak a little bit to what 3-Bit was saying, if that's okay.
Sure, absolutely.
And look, from what he's saying, and it's a shame I had to go after him this time. It makes complete and utter sense to work with something the studio is already familiar with. You only have to look across the Guerrilla Games, right? We have Short Memories, who successfully transitioned their toolset for Killzone in order to create, Horizon Zero Dawn. And there's a no-clip documentary on YouTube if you're interested, and it will clear up any misconceptions and especially low-rent opinions.
No Clip's excellent. Continue, sorry.
Deathloop and God of War 2018, I think, are very relevant and potent examples as well. And to what 3-Bit was saying, Unreal was usually only considered to be applied to games which were either FPS or over-the-shoulder shooters. But look at what Bend achieved with Days Gone. Look, I'm not a technical person by any stretch of the imagination. However, so the viewpoints I'm giving are completely from a layman's perspective, and it's better the devil you know, and let's evolve the Forza engine. That would be my take, and that would be my position, right? Unless someone could kick the tires of my suggestion if I was in that studio to make me think differently. And that's what good studios, that's what, they have these debates, they have these discussions, they do the feasibility studies, and and I'm sure that, a studio, and I'm in agreement with you, not only is Fable a pillar of the Xbox standout games, but I think PGG is one of the most outstanding studios Microsoft has on its roster. And and I think they'll definitely be able to create Fable with it. Look, from a completely selfish point of view, I would like them to spend the appropriate amount of time with whatever sort of technical direction that they take in order to take advantage and leverage the capability of the Series X and the S. I think regardless of what tool set, what engine, what third-party tools they use, it's irrelevant. We just want to see what the system can do, and it's all about how much they can engage our imaginations. And nothing I've seen so far on the horizon from any company is more imaginatively engaging than Fable. And you can cry foul and call me out on it, but that's just my opinion. And no doubt PGG will either develop the required tools in-house, I think, as 3-Bit was alluding to, or purchase third-party tools. And for everything, I think that a third-person sort of free-roaming, combat-driven, action-adventure, narrative-driven RPG requires. And there's so many of them out there. Again, going back to the first topic or second topic that we were discussing in terms of, Xbox reviewing sort of Naughty Dog games and so on and so forth. There's so many good RPG and so many good games out there, let alone, the first 3 or 4 Fable games that are already on play. And a lot of material there for PGG to glean and ideas from. Look, I've played Forza, and it was the first game I think I pretty much played when I got my Series X last November, 17th of November to be precise. And I played Forza exactly for this reason. I think I mentioned it on the show, Boom, as to why I looked at Forza first and what I gleaned from that, and as to how and what the studio needs to do in order to transition across to making Fable. And Forza is impressive, and I will only and it'd be really I've got a bit of a frog in my throat, so I'm having trouble to get my words out, but it'd be really interesting to see how PGG transform themselves into a team and studio capable of delivering a game close to the sort of the promise and intent of the trailer that they presented us with. And I think that would make for another fantastic no-clip documentary, and I really hope they do it. It'll be fantastic to watch, wouldn't it? And you've got the same situation with Rare, with Everwild, right, in the same boat, and no Sea of Thieves, pun intended. Actually, it was. There is a lot of talk surrounding PGG and what they're working on. If indeed it's Forza 5, then I think Fable is a little way or a long way out. My other concern is that with a Forza coming so soon, and because a lot of people are saying it's this year, I actually thought Motorsport was announced for this year and Forza perhaps later, or if it's indeed being developed in parallel by PGG and hasn't been outsourced, then the question for me is, releasing the game this early on in the generation, will it, and this is again talking to 3-Bit's point, will it indeed leverage the Series X anywhere near its potential? And I'm happy for people to say otherwise, right? I'm not a developer by any stretch of the imagination, not these days anyway. And the thing for me is that I'm seeing that games like Resident Evil 7 to Resident Evil 8, not a huge team by any stretch of the imagination. And then you look at Team Cherry, right, in terms of Hollow Knight and producing Silksong. They've both taken about 4.5 years, give or take, to produce these sequels, or in Team Cherry's case, the second game from Team Cherry. So I'm hoping that Forza is given that ample amount of time to really show what the studio can do, because I go back to this key point again, Boom. It's a pillar of a studio in terms of the position in Xbox's studio roster, and in terms of an IP, right? We want it to be both of them to be the best that they can possibly be. And inwardly looking for me, and I know this is selfish, but it's all about Fable and Unavowed, and whenever Starfield decides to show up. As I've said before, 2 game studios in full production is risky, and the best of times. Focus talent executing one project to a really high level. And as I say, I just hope it's Fable. I say this since so many people still play Forza 4 and have no complaints, Boom. And let's be honest, there's an embarrassment of riches when it comes to content. I mean, people are telling me they cannot get through the content. So what does that tell you, right? And there must have been a strategic motive behind delivering so much content for Forza 4 to keep the interest high, maybe in anticipation that Forza 5 may be a little bit further out than we anticipate. But there's plenty of legs left in Forza 4, so roll on Fable, and I for one would like to see at E3, if at all feasible, and I don't want that to impede or interrupt the development process, which Fitbit will tell you, demos and trailers do that exact thing when it comes to producing something in the middle of a development process. So that's everything from me. Thank you.
No. Great stuff as always. Listen, I don't know what we're going to get at E3. As a matter of fact, as we get closer to the end of the month, we're going to start talking E3. We're going to have a prediction show. FYI, I'm going to be doing 5. That week is going to be 5+ live shows, Monday through Friday coverage of what's happening at E3 through through primetime gaming, both Xbox shows, and of course the Breakfast with Boom. That Wednesday show will probably be a Double Barrel Gaming Presents of sorts. So we're gonna have it's gonna be very busy, and we're gonna have you covered if you subscribe to this channel. And of course, when the Microsoft see, my driving is awful. I hate these cars. This is the worst vehicle in the game. I mean, I cannot drive this to save my life. You see, look at this.
Here's the thing, Boom. Some people, they're like, I'm only gonna get the pristine content. No, not you. You're like, I'm keeping it real 110%, and that's what I admire. It's the blemishes that I love.
Yeah, this is awful. This is awful driving in the way. I mean, last place driving, and I deserve it. This car is so difficult to drive.
It looks hard to drive. It looks so stupid. It's like, what's that? What's those? Like, what's that? A glider up top? Looks dumb.
Oh my god! But listen,
people
folks,
drive these in real life. Ugh.
Yeah, they actually do have them. They're sprint cars, and I would kill myself driving them for sure. Real quick, DevTech in the chat drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, most people forget that the Unreal Engine was originated out of the game Unreal Tournament and FPS. And look how versatile it is now. Yeah, it's Epic's bread and butter, dude. And I cannot wait to see what a lot of these studios use with the Unreal Engine 5. That's going to be really something. But folks, this has been a fantastic show. Hopefully you enjoyed your near 2 hours. And obviously want to thank all of the super chats that continue to come in, folks. It is a big help, more than you know. And, you know, I'll throw this out there, shameless plug. We, and I say we, Mrs. Boomstick and I have decided that once we get to 10,000 subs, and we're close, we're at almost, I think, 8,300 now. We're doing 2 monster giveaways, and all you have to do is subscribe to the channel. No membership, no super chats. Simply be a subscriber to Double Barrel Gaming. We're giving away 1 grand prize, the Xbox Series X with a year of Xbox Game Pass, and the runner-up prize, no slouch, is an Xbox Series S with a year of Game Pass. And all you have to do is subscribe. So if you are new to the channel, obviously subscribe for the content, because I think what I do is really good stuff, and I think you definitely appreciate it if you stick around. But obviously your sub may snatch you a brand new next gen Xbox, whether that's the X or the S. And as soon as we hit 10,000 subs, I will do those giveaways. But let's get to the outros, and we'll start with our very special guest, N64 Josh. First of all, brother, welcome. I'm glad that you were able to come back. Obviously, this is not the last time we're going to have you on the show. Did you enjoy yourself? And tell everyone about where they can reach out to you on social media, but more importantly, subscribe to your YouTube channel.
First, I'm just going to let you know I'm going to probably create about 2,500 YouTube accounts and get you to 10. Get you to 10,000.
I love it. So. I love it.
No, you guys can find me everywhere at N64Josh. I do Nintendo and Xbox content. I have the Nintendo Powercast, which is a podcast you can find on YouTube and all the places. And I've recently started the Xbox Now brand, which is podcasts, YouTube videos, and articles at xboxnow.tv.
Nice. Well, we're definitely going to help push that show. Love what you're doing over there, and of course, positivity reigns supreme. Joe, we got to get you to get people to check out what you did yesterday with Greg Miller. I hope you get 1 million views on that. You deserve it. That is a big get. Love the fact that Greg Miller, who is very, very influential in the industry, took the time to hang out with you and Kyle. Tell everyone where they can check that out, and more importantly, where they could subscribe to check out your content from the trophy room.
I gotta say, this driving a hell of a lot better. This is
this is first place driving, right?
Yeah, this is first place driving for sure. You're gonna catch it. You're gonna take this. Yeah, you can find the Trophy Room over on YouTube, the Trophy Room Show, the video version. We had Greg Miller on. We talked about the future of PlayStation and where it's going alongside Xbox. We talk about the crossplay shenanigans that happened because of the Apple documents. We talk about, and Greg Miller does crush my hopes live about not getting a Sunset Overdrive 2. All that and more over on the Trophy Room. You can find the Trophy Room podcast wherever you find a podcast service of your liking, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify. We are on everything. And last but not leastly, I would be nothing without my co-host, Kyle Stevenson.
Yeah,
this man, I've been getting bombarded with text messages, with DMs and all such throughout this episode. And I keep going back to Kyle and just linking everything to him. He's amazing. He does not get enough love. He is the soul of the show. He is literally the heart of the show. Every time there's a crossroads, he's always my voice of reason. So shout out to Kyle. It's because of him all this stuff happened. Again, find the show wherever you find your podcast services.
Yeah, we definitely got to get Kyle on one of the programs,
Seriously.
Joe. Yeah, we definitely got to get him on Breakfast with Boom or Prime Time. But I think preferably Breakfast with Boom, simply because you obviously will be there, and obviously he'll feel more comfortable to jump on because obviously you guys work together. So I'll reach out to him privately and see if we can get him to get on the show as a guest. 3-Bit, why don't we get you on out of here? Tell everyone where they can check out your YouTube channel. More importantly, what other programs are you on and what else you got going on in the community?
Sure. Always good seeing you. And 64 Josh, welcome to the Xbox community, and good seeing you on these shows. Joe, congrats on talking with Greg Miller. I'm a fan of him, so I'll definitely have to check that show out. That
Bro,
sounds like a special
you should
one.
see the intro is so fast. I'm so nervous in the first 5 minutes. It's like, hi, welcome to the Trophy Room. I'm your host, Joseph, and holy shit, I'm having a panic attack.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I definitely got to check that out. But congrats to you. That's awesome.
you.
And VJ, you made so many great points at the end there. I definitely had to bite my tongue jumping in on some of those topics. Always love talking tech, and Boom, always putting together these amazing shows. It's always a blast. You all can follow me on Twitter at the VGHD. My YouTube channel is the Video Games HD. I'll be on Fun Pop tonight. 10 p.m. Eastern, where we discuss comics, and Xbox Ultimate, a fun group of awesome people over there every Friday at 9 p.m. And lastly, I'm on this other show called Noobs and Pros occasionally when I can jump on there.
Nice.
And that's been fun. We just talk games. There's no fan war stuff going on. We literally just discuss and have a good time. So you guys can find me on those shows, and I will see you guys on the next one.
You forgot to mention one particular show, which, of course, both Caitlin and Mav are in the chat, and we want to thank them for being here. Of course, my brother from another, Pong Soul, is there as well. You are a part of the Xbox Ultimate Podcast Friday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And also, got to give my brother from another, Pong Soul, a shout out. He is doing a Saturday morning podcast at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, I mean, boo, poor Pong Soul. That kid's a gentleman. And I say kid because he's just as old as I am, but he looks like a kid. Fantastic looking dude. But yeah, listen, check out their shows, folks. These are newer content creators. I really want to see the community get behind them because of their work. Their work ethic is strong. They power what it means to be community. I think we don't support the smaller folks enough that put community first, and they're both doing a great job of doing that. So get over there and subscribe to their channels. And VJ, once again, the literal arts that you bring to each and every podcast is just amazing. And of course, the smartest man on the panel. Tell everyone, VJ, where they can reach out to you on social media and potentially be hit with a dictionary.
Yeah, the smartest man who's got a frog in his throat and can't get his words out today. So I'm really, really sorry about that. I just wanted to mention that tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Indie Gamer and Luke Steele will be joined live by none other than Leith, who represents Team Cherry of Hollow Knight fame.
Oh, very nice, dude.
And Mongoose Rodeo, whose upcoming game Crowsworn looks to have some real potential. If you're a fan of any of the above, it should be a very special interview because I don't know if you know, I'm a huge Hollow Knight fan, and I couldn't get off it for about 2 weeks. I'm not sure if inviting me onto the panel was a good idea, but I am honored and grateful for the opportunity. We'll do my best. And thanks for having me on the show, Boom. Thanks everyone on the panel and in the chat. And hopefully I'll feel a little bit better next week.
Yeah, we'll get you back to full strength next week. You did great as always. I want to thank everybody that tuned in for today's podcast. Of course, I want to close out the show with something that's important to me. Hopefully, one day it'll be important to you, and it's something that my dad taught us when we were kids, and I think now more than ever, it's super important. He said, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week on the newest episodes of the Xbox Factor podcast.